Jamie J, it's awesome to be back with you. I always love our conversations. Um, we happen to record them, but we would gladly have these conversations just in general, right? So,
Mhm.
um, you're such a font of information, and the topics we cover, I think, are so significant that I'm really glad that we're able to put them out for people to learn in these little dose of truths that we do. And I was thinking we have done lengthy interviews on this topic on pornography, but I think we should do a dose of truth on it, because it's such a significant issue. And with the what I see as the continual Overton window and social engineering advancement of the normalizing of pedophilia that we're at today, I think it's important to kind of bring in pornography and what's been done with that, what the agenda is, what it does to the brain, all of it. So, anyway, glad to be back and welcome. And, just let's just start wherever you think we should start, Jamie.
Sure. Yeah. Thanks for having me back. And I just want to say, I've gotten so much positive feedback and comments about our shows that people just really enjoy me and yours personality talking. So I do feel like it motivates me to keep doing it because I have actually gotten really positive feedback from all the shows we've done. So, um, but yeah, so the topic today with pornography, I mean, there's so many aspects to it, and I actually have done quite a few podcasts on it. If people Google my name, Jamie J, and put pornography conspiracy after, I did about 6 shows, I think, on it because there's just so many aspects of it, and also those other shows I did. Surprisingly, a lot of men actually really liked those shows. Like they were expecting them to sort of be maybe like critical or coming down on them, and I actually received so much positive feedback from men saying, "Wow, I never thought of it this way until I listened to your shows and the way you explained it." And I really just agreed with everything you said, and I was so just sharing it with all my male friends of this new way to think about how this is really being weaponized against men, and really having compassion for that and explaining to people what's actually being done to them instead of trying to kind of you know criticize them or
Right.
give them a moral lecture or something. It's like just looking at the actual facts and the science behind it. It's like people really need to be informed of what this actually is, because I think there's always been a form of pornography through all history. You know what I mean? Like, I'm sure there's some sexually suggestive cave painting somewhere, in history. There's always been some type of, you know, sexual art or expression or something.
Yeah.
But that's not the same thing that's happening now. So now, some people want to minimize it and say, "Oh, it's just kind of that same thing. It's always been there. It's just kind of erotic, whatever." And it's like, I think what people really need to realize is that that is not what's happening now. Like what's happening now is actual brain rewiring. It's which translate into a change in social relationships, in the way that people relate to each other. And in my opinion, it's actually really degrading people down to their lowest animal nature, but also their animal nature, not just in a sexual way, but in an inability to relate to others, like low impulse control. There's so many aspects of it that basically you're basically transforming yourself by consuming it, and it is very, very dangerous. I think people is sort of promoted as being harmless and something you can sort of just partake in within your own control, and it's not going to actually do something to you. But I think when people really look at the science and they're really honest with each themselves, it's like saying you're just going to do heroin on the weekends and it's not going to ruin your life and you're going to be successful and you're not going to lose everything you own. It's like that's kind of how people approach the pornography. And now there's no shame attached to it anymore. I mean, back in the day, I'm sure, most people, whatever, would sneak a magazine once in a while or whatever. And it was kind of this thing that was once in a while, really sneaky. I just wanted to look at it once and put it away. And, but now it's just become so socially acceptable that men are just sitting there talking in front of their grandparents about the porn they watch. It's just completely acting like it's the kind of cereal somebody eats. You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
to me, that's really scary that there's just absolutely, and I don't mean even a sexual shame, but just it's this kind of a neediness, or just it's there's no shame in being addicted to looking at strangers on the internet, which is like a not a normal behavior at all, or needing that as sort of a drug fix. Like that in itself is something that I wouldn't think people would be proud of, even if it wasn't pornography. If it was anything like that that they are an addict to, is it, you know, it's like now it's like there's not a problem with that. That's just seen as part of life. And it really, it's to me, I kind of always knew about pornography, and I, you know, I studied in university, you know, like in sociology and stuff like that. It just became apparent to me in the last 2 years how much it's actually transforming society and men in general and women too. Um, I think it's actually one of the biggest problems that I don't even know like the long-term effects of it, what it's really doing, but it's actually a really, really big problem.
Yeah. And it's part of the overall satanic agenda to transform us into basically a complete satanic reality, which we've talked about in many, many different topics, right? And it is still, it's also part of the agenda to normalize pedophilia because pornography had, it went from women in bikinis or sexy underwear in a magazine to like really violent gang rape sex acts. But then it went because there's no end, right? And then it went to younger and younger and younger, and then
Mhm.
children and animals. And so it's really taken our sexuality, which has many dimensions and is sacred at some level, right? And reduced it. That's what they do. They take the organic and the light and they bring it down into their horrible, dark, satanic, destructive reality. So that's just one pretty significant tool that they've used to really transition us over time. And, you know, when you think of like maybe the 40s or the 50s and then today, it wasn't that long ago, you know? So they've really done an amazing transformation. So, you know, there's so many facets here to talk about, but let's start with maybe what you alluded to and like what is it doing to people's brains and what is it doing to people? We'll start there. Then we'll talk about the people that are the objects of the porn and you know about that. But let's start with what is it doing to, I guess, primarily men or the people that consume it?
And women are starting to consume it more,
Yeah.
and young women are consuming it more, and they're actually consuming it in place of doing it in real life, is more of a norm now. But as far as what it actually does to the brain, like pornography is a drug. It is an apps. It affects your brain the same way as going and doing heroin. It's what men are actually trying to get from it is dopamine. And so um, when you watch it and you get the dopamine, then your dopamine is depleted. Like in nature, you would never consume that much pornography to that level of extreme. And so like when people are consuming it all day and every day, it absolutely depletes all of their dopamine, serotonin, and it depletes their life force energy. Like it's literally a reciprocal for their life force energy, which if you look at this kind of in an esoteric way, like that's meant to be channeled into actually doing things in life, like creating things, whether it's a family or a home or something that they would channel their life force drive into. And so again, to kind of go back to what you were saying about bring people down to the lowest, you know, sexuality. It really abstracts it, like almost like abstract art, where it's obscured and taken out of context, so that it's not actually used how it would be holistically as part of like a whole multifaceted person in relationship and a part of life. It's like just extracted down to just this, just here, just now. You know, which that's not natural and that's not normal, and there's a consequence to doing that. And I mean, I've worked in residential places where it's kind of like a halfway house, you know, thing where people are coming out of extreme addiction and have gone through rehab and detox and are, you know, and it became apparent to me at one point like why they were staying in their rooms all day, because they were replacing that addiction with pornography, and that actually was worse because they would be depressed after, they would have no motivation, they would have low self-esteem, like all these things that that people would be dealing with in a therapist's office or in rehab or in a counseling setting, that's the same as going to rehab. Like, and I don't know if there is actual rehab for pornography addiction. Like, I think there is process addiction, and some people might go and do that. I don't know if there's places specifically for that, like covered by healthcare in different countries. But that's always an aspect of other addictions as well. Like, a lot of people do cocaine or meth and watch pornography all day. Like they do it together because they're just, the more dopamine, it's all about dopamine, right? They're just using that as drug. And so when you do that, that translates over to how you interact. You start using humans as drugs, right? So that's why a lot of these men that are addicted to the pornography will then start going online, where it's like, again, it's that same thing of flipping through the girls, right? There's just a catalog of girls, like even on a dating site. So it's like taking that pornographic relationship with the person on a screen as an object that you can select from or delete or turn off or pick a new girl, just like a remote control. And then that translate over to real life, where they're just trying to find basically a warm body to reenact this pornography on, and using the women as a drug to get that little fix and then disposing of them. Um, and so that ripples out and like affects all of society, of people treating each other that way as like disposable objects to just basically be used as a drug to get dopamine hits from another human. And that is really satanic. That is really predatory. That is really like the concept of devourment and like eating the weaker and like using other people's life force to feed your, like, vampire and feed yourself. And so it's kind of like they've turned all society into vampires, and everybody has that low depleted life force because they're not generating it. And then they're looking for somebody else to feed off of. And that is really what pornography is promoting on a societal level.
Hi everyone, I'm Max with Unbroken.Global. I wanted to invite you to attend my seminar on satanic ritual abuse. Some things I'm going to cover in the seminar are methods of torture used in satanic rituals, how satanic rituals harvest our energy and use that energy to create more dark agendas. Satanic ritual abuse is very scientific, and it is intended to create dissociation and altars that can be programmed to do a variety of tasks. So I'm going to talk about that, and also explain the global hierarchy and how interdimensional demonic entities are actually at the top of the pyramid. I'm going to talk about the bloodline families and how they are hybrids who are better equipped to allow demonic entities to inhabit their bodies, and how the elites use occult rituals to engineer their agendas for humanity. I hope to see as many of you as want to attend there. Thank you so much. Interesting, yeah. And also it destroys our human relational part of us. There's no real connection. We're supposed to connect through the heart, through love, right? And then these other things are a facet of that. So I have seen it in parallel with transhumanism, right? So even like the advent of cell phones or screens, like now people are, people text now. They don't even talk on the phone, which was already 1 degree separate than being face to face, where when communication, 80% of it is body language and tone of voice. And, suddenly that's not there. On the phone, at least there's still tone of voice. But then when you go to texting or all these other social media ways of connecting, you've stripped the human relational social part of communication out and reduced it to this, again, lowest level, right? So cell phones, screens, whatever. So no one, when I go out, I see people staring in their phones. They're out somewhere. I've even seen this with people walking in the woods. It's like they're looking at their phone. And so it's a disconnect from reality, from the actual world, from each other. People will sit together at restaurants and both people are looking at their phones. So it seems to me that porn has gone kind of enhanced that detachment from each other. And so I've seen, and even now in the age of AI and robots, there's all these robots that can be your sex partner or these dolls that can be your sex partner. So it's really kind of
Mhm.
creepy, right? I mean, doesn't it connect with transhumanism?
Yeah, that's kind of where it ends up. Especially with the like AI sex dolls that just are like programmed to basically machine learn off you and then figure out what you like and just feed it back to you. And the thing that there is no intimacy without vulnerability. And I think
Right.
Brene Brown did some stuff on this that is worth watching. And so when people have these kind of fake surrogate quasi intimate experiences, which is what pornography is a counterfeit for, and also the sex dolls, so you're never actually vulnerable to rejection. But you're actually never intimate with anybody either. So this actually makes people kind of like a cyborg, and it makes people incompetent even to have relationships where people start preferring the doll to a real person. They start preferring pornography. Like, um,
Yeah.
I think it's another thing that people really need to understand. The actual real consequences of pornography is impotence and no
Mm.
relationship. So there's people like the more pornography, because your brain is like depleting, and needing that dopamine, you actually won't be able to just have regular sex with a partner. And actually being in love and being intimate will be a turnoff for you. Like you need to reproduce the screen experience, because everything in sexuality is like pairing, like Pavlov's dogs, right? And that's why people have like fetishes and stuff. Like it's very subconscious, just pairing kind of stuff. Like and so there's obviously really different levels of that, but when you start pairing things, it's hard to unpair them, right? And so if you're always connecting sexual arousal with a screen and safety and somebody that's like not really real, but just something you can control on a screen, then that gets paired in your mind with your arousal state. And so when you try to do something out of that, it's not going to work. And so people have to reenact, like, I mean, some people even have to get their partner to act like a doll while they're watching pornography in order to actually be able to get aroused with them. Like, I mean, this is just the level it's going to. Foxy, come here. This is just the level it goes to. And also, when people burn out, like when they just indulge, they always need more stimulus to get aroused. And
Yeah.
eventually they can't get aroused it out. Like most people who like just go full on pornography, they actually end up impotent, where they actually cannot become aroused by anything anymore. And so they're always frustrated. They wish they could be aroused. And again, this is why the pornography gets more and more disgusting, because arousal um, is a kind of a general term. So people find things that are shocking, like violence or just like really extreme things, because those are also arousing. And so the arousal part of your brain can be aroused by multiple things, and that's why they pair violence in movies and stuff, or like shock, right? And or for some women it's like danger, right? Like that's why maybe a woman would be turned on by a bad boy on a motorcycle, because there's kind of this danger part of the brain that's this form of arousal, right? And so things get paired in arousal in the mind. So like people who think, oh, I'm going to just indulge, you actually end up impotent, unable to become aroused, and unable to have any form of relationship or intimacy at all in your life, which is not a very good place to be. I don't think anybody's happy there. And at that point, they have no control over it anymore. Like it doesn't matter what they do. It's either they've rewired their brain, and it doesn't matter what they would watch. Is they're impotent. They cannot become aroused anymore. So if that's the end goal for people, which I don't think it is, I just
No.
think people need to be realistic. It's like, again, it's that person who thinks they're just going to do heroin on the weekend and it's going to be fine. It's like, no, go take a walk down the strip where people are, see where heroin really takes you when you're not in control anymore. It's like, it's just math and science, right? Like you're not special, and it's going to affect you the same way that it does everybody else, because we're all human, and our brains all work the same with, and the dopamine works. So, you know, it's like playing with fire. It's just, you're going to get burned eventually.
Yeah. And we all know that um what people watch on screens, and particularly like young adolescents, or who just porn is readily available. I mean, like you've said before, there's a reason it's free. So then they also get the wrong idea from the get-go about what sexuality is, and they will imitate that. So there's always more and more acts of violence, like young people gang rape a 12-year-old or whatever. But they see it in the pornography. So now it's become normalized. So they will actually reenact, or even if they get with just one partner, they will imagine that women want to be, beaten and aggressively, handled, and all the stuff that and these like crazy positions that, are unnatural. So then there will be an expectation for a person coming into their sexuality about what that should look like, right? And the same
Mm-hmm.
with child pornography. Like if you're consuming that because you've gotten to that point where the regular stuff doesn't work anymore, like you said, and so you can only not be impotent if becomes even more extreme. But then there's a way that it normalizes that in the brain as okay. And then that person who may not be a pedophile could become one because that, and also because there's no social skill building there. So now a child, again, is easy because you don't have to, you don't have the complexity of relating to, like, say, an adult woman. It's like, oh, well, here's a 10-year-old. This is, I'll go for this. So I think it also encourages and normalizes sexual perversion, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and this is all done intentionally because the people making it hate you and want to destroy you. And that's why they're making it and encouraging you to use it and giving it to you for free and hoping that you play with it to the point of becoming addicted and degraded and basically a dead shell of a human, because that's how these people get a power differential on the earth. And the more people they have like that, the better. And again, it also steals like the life force, right? Like we saw this during COVID, where I think some porn sites were even making it free during the lockdown because those men aren't going to get up and fight tyranny. They're going to just deplete their life force and
Mm.
have a sandwich after and go along with whatever. Like that's why they're doing it. I think people need to realize that it's a weapon being used against them. It's
Yes.
not some type of um, wonderful thing that's been created for them to have something great. It's I think with a lot of men that I've talked to, I've actually had a lot of men reach out to me and really be like, "Oh my God, I did not realize like this was what it was." And I'm like, "Yeah, it's like you need to guard yourself from this. Like this is a trick. Like this is like the apple of Snow White. Like you know what I mean? Like this is a poison apple. Like it's being offered to you because the person hates you and wants to destroy you. You know? And I think some men are catching on to that. Um, you know what I mean? Like, I think there is a movement of men realizing like how much it's just like basically degrading them and making them really weak-willed and immature. Like, it actually age regresses them. And I think we talked about it on porn, which I just want to say again because I think it's really important to this point that all pornography it leads to pedophilia eventually because it starts age regressing people the more you watch it. Like, even um, watching teen porn is because teens are in puberty and have a lot of hormones and are thinking about sex all the time. So that's a very teen mindset. And so when people are thinking about sex all the time and watching porn all the time, they're acting like a teen and that's age regressing them to be like a teen. And that's part of the reason they're attracted to teens. And like you just explained with the child, like it's like it just starts regressing you down to like an infantile position as a person where you're basically just like needy look for a breast, like you know what I mean, like that's actually what it's reducing you down to. um and that's people are attracted to like where their emotional level is at, like it's an externalization of what they are, right? And that's why a lot of narcissists who are little children inside emotionally are also pedophiles. And so this constant like instant gratification, and you know what I mean, like it's taking a man and turning him into a slobbering little baby, and that's what it's meant to do. The people who do this understand this psychology. Like they understand classical conditioning and operant conditioning and these types of things. Like this pornography is made very deliberately to be a weapon, and it is part of the agenda for the pedophilia, which is also part of the transhumanism, because they want everybody to be like a little child that can be controlled like a robot. That's the end goal. You know what I mean? So the more they can promote that, it goes together, right?
Yeah, no, well said. Pornography is a weapon. It's Everything is weaponized against us, and that's a biggie. That's a big weapon. Um, let's talk about the people that are in the women in this case mostly. I mean, there's men too, but that are the stars of the pornographic videos. The children, of course, as you know, I well know, are forced into it. You know, people who are SRA survivors most have been, you know, exposed to being filmed and all that. But let's just talk about the women that society has been trying to normalize sex work as if it's actually a choice of profession. They're trying to say it
Mhm.
is. And I was reading like they should get health benefits and unionize and whatever. It's like, wait, what? You're normalizing pornography as a choice. And what I can say for sure is that anyone who would be a porn star has been sexually abused or worse, right? Like
And may not even remember it.
you don't,
They may be dissociative and most
right,
likely are.
right. So talk about that.
Yeah, I would say it's pretty fair. Like, I wouldn't believe anybody would be in pornography without being dissociative. It's so
Yes.
unnatural. There's no little girl born that is like, I would love to be on film for anybody to see my most intimate when it's being degraded. Like that, like to get from A to B, certain things need to happen, which is trauma and fragmentation. And a lot of people that are in pornography are not, they are being used against their will, whether it's through coercion or threat, or um, because they're actually under mind control. And pretty much everybody that has been put through a mind control program, whether that's through, the mafia, whether it's through the military, whether it's through these multiple groups that do it, the religious groups, pornography is always a part of it. This is how they get the people to be in pornography, and this is how they keep people dissociative for other things by using them in pornography. They kind of complement each other. So being in the pornography helps keep them dissociative so they can use them for the multiple other things they use slaves for. But then they also generate money from the pornography, and it's just keeping that person knowing what they're there for. And so it's they need that constant abuse in order to keep them in the position that they've been trained for. And this is for children as well as adults. And I would say that, when people are consuming porn, like, you don't know what is going on in that person's mind, if they even remember being there. Like, you know what I mean? There's so many women that have been used in pornography, and children and boys too, that have no idea that there's tapes of them out there. They were in an altered trance state. They were hypnotized. Like, I read all the books of Linda Lovelace, who did the movies in the 70s when they would show pornography in theaters. And if you read her life story, and the movie's actually really good, Lovelace, I highly recommend people watch that. And that's just that's the whitewash version, right? Like, if you want the real story, you read the books of the fact that Chuck Trainer was a master hypnotist and was, um, using bestiality rape and things on her, like, and he was literally mind controlling her. Like, he had her in actually hypnotized, going and doing these things. And so, but people go down to the theater and think, oh, that girl just wants to be a star. And I really don't like the word porn star, because nobody's a star. You know what I mean? It's just this like normalization. And I mean, I've watched a lot of interviews with porn stars. And to me, they look dissociative. Like, and I don't want to name a bunch of names on here, but there's some pretty famous girls that if you watch interviews with them, and that was kind of their role, was to be public, right? So like in the 70s, those people were not household names, right? Like, this was a taboo genre, kind of subculture that was hidden, right? And now, say in the 90s, like when some of these women were like, they're hanging out with movie stars at events, and it's like, no, this is normal. I'm a porn star, and that's just like being a movie star, right? And so they've brought it in to um, a normal society. And when I watch interviews with those girls, they completely, I would bet everything I own, they have been put through programming. Like, they're completely dissociative. They're unable to feel shame. Like, it's completely disconnected, which is really easy to do with programming. Like they cannot feel shame, like at all. It's completely disconnected from their consciousness, and that is not normal. That is not natural. If you watch some interviews with some of the porn stars that did like gangbangs and stuff, they'll tell you, I don't even remember being there. I was like looking down at my body. I wasn't even in my body, and my body was just there being used for whatever. And I don't even remember being there until I watched it on the tape. Like they'll tell you right there, they're dissociative. So yeah, I
Yeah.
think people when they watch that, you need to understand like you're watching filmed rape and
Yes.
you're consuming it, and people lie to themselves and tell themselves, because that's part of the girl's job. You know what I mean? Like, is to say, oh no, I love it. And I really recommend actually, as much as I don't like to support certain people, but if you go on Netflix and watch the Rocco documentary, it's horrifying. And anybody that has eyes to see and understands how SRA works and mind control you can bet that Rocco knows exactly what he's doing with those girls. And all that Rocco made famous was the like basically sodomizing women, which is like just like basically acting like a reptile and attacking the women and harming them like in a really reptilian way. And that was what the genre that he made famous. And then they're interviewing the girls and they're like, "Oh, I love it. Like I just love." And it's like that if people actually believe that, that's insanity. Like there, no person would love that. That is called mind control, where you're inverted, right? Where pleasure is pain. And you can watch some of these girls that are interviewed with Rocco saying, I don't know why, violence arouses me. Like, and I'm like, yeah, because that has been paired somewhere that nobody's born that way.
Yeah, no, and I can attest to that personally, where, one of the things that I was trained for was, it's MK Ultra, it's Monarch program, it's that beta sex kitten thing, you know. And when these mostly elite, pedophiles uh buy a child or have a child given to them as a favor, they don't want a crying, screaming child who's fighting the rape. They want a well-trained, sexualized child who appears to want it, right?
Mm-hmm,
So that is the training. I was put
mm-hmm,
through that training, and it is completely dissociated because it's an act of pure, unadulterated violence. It's particularly, and it's the first chakra. And they do love to sodomize. So even they'll sodomize boys, but they'll sodomize girls just as much. They really want to do it that way. And it's stealing the life force. It's really sick and twisted. And no child wants that. But as we know, that's been normalized in society. The sexy clothing for children, the sexy Halloween costumes, on TV shows, they want to go date when they're 9 years old. Like this whole social engineering to think that this is normal. It isn't normal. It's totally abusive. And you have to dissociate because otherwise you wouldn't survive it. So I had to dissociate it because I wouldn't have survived it. And then when I got out and I was at, 18 or into my few years into my 20s, I was reenacting that.
mm-hmm,
I thought that I should sleep with any guy who I got with, and I didn't know how to form a relationship. To me, it was just that. That was the only thing. And eventually I met a guy that wanted to know me and wanted a relationship and sort of opened my ability to do that. And I then something clicked and things came back to me and I realized, wait a minute, what am I doing? And so that's to your point. I was so dissociated and so trained that I was voluntarily being with men afterwards because I thought that was what it was until I realized, wait a minute, you know? And so it's really insidious. It's really disgusting. And again, it is part of the satanic inversion of organic life, of humanity, of love, of how things should be, of relationships, right? That's not who we are, but it's pretty frightening to see how effective they've been in changing that over time. So we should probably wrap up. So give me your final thoughts on this, and maybe we'll do another one because it's such a big topic. But just for the sake of today, how do you want to close this conversation?
I think just like understanding that pornography is a drug and it's a weaponized drug, and also that, you know, dissociation and inability to say no is not consent, and just really sitting with those
Yeah.
two thoughts, because when you're watching something on a screen, it's acting and you're actually participating in somebody being violated. And I've heard people call it filmed prostitution, and I'm like, that isn't even a good enough term for me. You're watching filmed abuse. And that's what it is. So, like, stop lying to yourself and saying that this is what people want because you like consuming it. That is not the truth. It is immoral to watch other people being abused for your own pleasure, and that is what Satanism is service to self at the expense of others. And, you know, even with the acts of violent sexuality like sodomy and things, it's like the reason that's satanic is because it is pleasuring yourself while someone else is accepting pain for you to pleasure yourself, which is a very satanic concept, and that's why they do it. It's a submission to being abused dynamic, and it's always a key part to all of this. And so I think, you know, it really bothers me that little kids are like trying to do, you know, sodomize each other and stuff, because I think this is just like a normal act that works in nature, which it does not. Like, people on these movies are like taking muscle relaxers, have had training. Like, this is not something. So, like, people don't understand, like, when you go watch an action movie, that's not real, and the same is with the pornography. And so I'll just leave it there for that. But just really, like, be honest with yourself about what you're actually participating in, and knowing that a lot of those people don't even know they're there. They are completely dissociative and they're just being abused on tape, and you're consuming it.
Yeah, no, thank you for saying that. And I mean, again, no judgment because this has been really engineered into our society, but you are basically contributing, you're watching and participating in the rape of other people, in the sexual abuse of other people, in the traumatization of other people. I don't care if a porn star has done 1,000 videos, every single one of those 1,000 videos, that person is being abused. That person is being traumatized again and again, and it's destroying them. So you are getting pleasure at the destruction of another human being. And that is Satanism in a
Mm-hmm.
nutshell, as you said. And so, we need to
Mm-hmm.
just be aware of that.
Mm-hmm. And a lot of these porn stars actually killed themselves. Like, you actually go and look after at the real person and look at their real life and what really happens to them. Um, and these acts are a loss of dignity for a person, because no person wants to have their most intimate things for anybody to just be available for free. And everybody deserves dignity. And I was just saying off camera, like, how disturbed I am by this gangbang type stuff when they're trying to do records and stuff, because just because somebody gives people permission, it's like 1,000 people will line up and violate somebody just because they don't have the ability to even protect their own dignity. Like, as soon as they're saying, "Oh, go ahead, it's fine," I just can't believe that out of 1,000 people, even in a group where one person wouldn't say, like, this person obviously isn't able to, like, honor their own dignity. Maybe we just should do it for them. You know what I mean? Like, everybody deserves dignity, and there is no dignity in pornography. That's really what it is. And so I don't think anybody deserves to not have dignity, and that's just the way I think of it.
Yeah. Well, thanks, Jamie. It's an important topic to cover. So thank you for, being willing to discuss that. And we will get together again for our next dose of truth. And, we might continue this discussion because it is so important. I hope this video really gives people pause and food for thought. So I'll talk to you again soon then.
Okay, thanks. Bye.